skipping past the usual introduction, today we are going to review a pull request, and we'll also take a look at the process that we usually follow to rectify these mistakes without closing and reopening a pull request. There's something I often find people asking me time and again, so I'll just make a video so that every student or everyone working on open source projects has a clear idea of what's going on. Right, so let's get started. So here is the pull request I have. For example, I'm the reviewer, so I've just added some comments and asked my student to rectify them, right? So request changes. So the person would, the person who has submitted this particular pull request would get a notification on the email regarding whatever changes I have asked for. And let's assume I'm that guy. So I have kind of replicated the entire situation in a new pull request, exact changes, exact comments which I myself have added for the sake of demonstration. And here's the code base, right? So let's talk about some immediate problems in the previous pull request that I showed. First of all, the pull request is coming from a master branch, which is not ideal practice. You should always create a feature /xyz branch, which I think I mentioned in the last video. So that. Secondly, the issue number is not tagged in the heading, so that again is a mistake. The other pull request seems to have done it fine, and again this has been followed properly, so that's good. Secondly, you'll notice that there are multiple commits in this particular pull request. So usually that is not an ideal outcome from a pull request. What the maintainer expects is a single commit that basically resolves whatever you are targeting. So all these things we'll talk about in this video. So before we get started with the actual command line codes and how to do that, we'll probably have to take a look at a few basic things about Git, right? So as you know, Git is a distributed version control management system, which means at any point of time you can change or direct your code to a server which you can call a source of truth, right? So believe it or not, there are in our case there are 3 machines at play, 3 servers. One is your computer, right? So we'll just call it local. One is your repository, right? And we call it origin. And the other is upstream, which is the repository from where you have forked this. So the usual order of things is you fork to create your repository that you get, and you basically clone this to get your local copy of code, right? So this is how it would get started. So after this you basically start coding, right, and make changes in your local copy of code, and after that what you do is you push this code up to your repository, and finally you, let me just name this, push this code, you create a PR, and if it gets accepted, it gets merged to upstream, right? So this is usually how things happen, right? So the important concepts here are what happens if while creating PR things have already changed here. This is one aspect that we need to cover, which is usually something that you generally stumble upon, right? Secondly, if something has changed here, how do you keep your origin in sync and why exactly do you need to do that, and basically we'll primarily talk about the rebase command, how to rebase itself, how to squash things, squash commits, right, and then basically force pushing. So I'll show them one by one. And I mean, the diagram in itself should at least give you a hint that there are 3 machines, and I think that should be enough to get you started. After that, again, this is not a Git primer video. I would suggest that you go check out other videos that talk about Git in detail, but whatever I'm going to show you right now would be enough to get you started with something, right? So let's see whatever we have been asked to change in our code, right? So missing new line here, changing this, I'll just change it back to whatever it was, right, and moving the code to a different file. I don't know why this has been changed, like the entire file shows that things have changed. That should not be the case. The only line changed should be this, right? So I come here and start with the file backdrop.tsx, control P, backdrop tsx. Yeah, just change it back to whatever it was. I don't think we need orange right now. No point in doing so. So that is done. Then we have missing new line in navbar tsx. Navbar tsx. Where is this missing new line again? At the end of file. Okay. Yeah. So this usually is fixed by running the format command, and it will do whatever's necessary. You'll notice that React icons is all red because I mean, it was kind of given that we are using React icons and we haven't changed package.json anywhere. So this usually happens if you install it and don't run the save flag with it. So we'll do that right now. I think it's npm install -- save react icons. Let me check it. React icons, npm install save, just run it and you're good to go. So let's do that first. So ideally package.json should now have React icons, so now it should work fine, right? Always check the files that are being changed during a particular session of your coding, so that you know what is being changed, what is not being changed. So currently we have touched the navbar tsx, package.json, backdrop.tsx, right? So moving forward, these styles are supposed to be in a different file. I don't know why that wasn't done, and navbar is sitting along with appshell. Okay, I mean, a general structure of code should be followed. I mean, that's the least that we can expect from someone, so that's fine. Just go navbar tsx and navbar dot styles dot ts, right? We'll copy this code, remove this, go to navbar tsx, paste this. Okay, move the styles to this, and this is not the way of doing things, right? I mean, styling the icons itself is not ideal. So what we'll do is get rid of this for now and start from scratch. Okay, so we just have this. We have a function named navbar. Right, so in TypeScript what you can do is you can do something like we can do this const react fc, was it? Don't remember. Anyway, I mean, you can skip this for now. I'll check the syntax for it and get back to you on this. So this, we don't have any props for now, so forget that. Just returning a JSX element, and we return a simple div. Hello, I am navbar. Good enough. And here we'll just export this because TypeScript will throw error in other case, and we'll import navbar and export default navbar. Cool. Now we'll check our app shell code, and here nav stage navbar. Let's add navbar here. Navbar should auto import this. Yeah. All right. Let's run the server and check what's up. Engine start. Okay. Now we'll quickly open the icon list, pick something nice for us. So let me refer to our design ones here. Design discussion. Was it this? Yeah. So whichever is highlighted has a white background, and the rest would be kind of grayish black or something like that. So the colored icons somewhere. Yeah, these. Okay. But I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to change their color, so never mind. Let's select a few icons for ourselves. We have dashboard. Let's get the filled ones here. Usually you would want to pick icons from the same set of icon list, but if for some reason that is not possible, you like some other icons, feel free to do so. Again, so just copy pasting here a bit so that I can get started with something. This is part of RI, so this is RI. Cool. Oh, sorry, I imported it in the wrong components. So let's go back to navbar and come here. Okay. Now, if you remember, we have designated a size of 64 pixels for this entire space. How would I know that? Inspect element, and you know that it's 64 cross some value, right? So we have a net space of 64 pixels. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll create navbar container. So export const navbar container styled dot div. So we are writing a container component. What do we expect of this container? So the elements should be stacked one after the other, right? And there will be a section here, and there will be one icon here, which will be the user's avatar icon. So we want to have this gap in the middle as well, right? So for that, what we can do is we can say display flex. We'll use flexbox, and flex is, as you know, by default the direction is row, so we'll change the flex direction to column. Yeah, so export. So again, like we were talking about git and everything, that will come into play as soon as we are done with this component. After that, I'll show you how to update the PR that's already open, and that is exactly the cycle you'll have to follow every time the reviewer asks you to change something, or basically you're getting started with a new component or a new feature rather, right? So of course, a thing to notice is that I'm working on a new branch, and the branch name is appropriately named. So this should be the first thing that you need to keep in mind before you get started, right? Okay, so yeah, so we'll create primary icon wrapper, which basically wraps the first set of icons, which is like draw, like the drawing board, dashboard, maybe the settings even. Yeah, and there will be another set called the secondary icon wrapper styled div. So immediately as soon as you start naming them, like these particular like if you name them like these, what will happen is basically you will immediately start forming a mental hierarchy in your head that will basically help you structure things better and kind of help you in working with less context in mind, like less work for your brain. Nav container, so that's the primary icon wrapper, secondary icon wrapper. I think we should call it container because icon wrapper will be needed in a while. So container, because it contains them, the major chunk of things, and each individual icon may be wrapped in a particular wrapper. So block elements will usually consume the entire space that has been given to them, so I expect these two to consume whatever space they have been given. We can verify that by adding background color red and background color blue, but given that there is no content here, we may see a div with 0 value, expecting it. So cool. Now let's do one thing. What's wrong? Invalid property WebKit. Oh, okay, cool. So a height, so we can give this height of 100%, right? And flex one. Yeah, so what I'll do is we'll need to add in content in this before we can actually see the colors filling up the space. we can put flex1 on a particular item of the flex box and it will consume the entire space, but we don't want to do that. You'll see why that is the case in a bit. So we already have dashboard. We want a brush icon maybe to represent that the thing draws. We took something from RI, right? Hold on, let's see. Canvas. No. Okay. Paint. It's the same thing again. Draw. No. So I'll probably have to go with brush and something like this. This looks nice, so we'll go with this. Import from React icons GI library. Cool. And now we'll wrap them up in their own containers. So let's call it icon wrapper. We haven't created it yet, so we'll do that in a sec. Okay, now let's create icon wrapper. Just add it here because we're going to add it in this file. Export const styled div yeah, let's just do that for now. Yeah, okay, so far so good. Now let's see if we can change the font size of this, right? So how do we experiment with that? First of all, let's bring it in the middle. So we have 64 pixels, right? So we can have 4 on either sides, so 56. So obviously the icons are within tiles, so the tiles will have a fixed and equal height and width. So let's make that happen. Height 56, width 56, right? Okay, and let's see if font size is something the icons respect, because usually works. So let's say 18 pixels and see if it changes. Is it changing? I don't know. Yeah, it is. Now to center them, we can do this. We can say display flex and justify content center and align items center, and they are centered in their own blocks. So a thing to keep in mind is when you use flexbox, right, and let's say this is the primary direction, which is direction, flex direction. So let's say if it is row, then align items will tell how the items will be aligned along the opposite, or rather the orthogonal axis of your primary axis. While on the other hand, justify content will specify how they will be positioned along this, right? The easy way to remember is that the default direction is row and align items as A. So this is the direction which it will adjust. So that's a simple trick I do to remember it, else it's usually something you'll forget. So right, so that is done. We also want let's say the settings icon, so let's get that in here as well. FI, right? We are using the FI icons, FI and GI apparently. So import from React icons FI, right? So icon wrapper FI this, so we should have the settings icon as well, and we also want the avatar icon or the user icon for someone who hasn't signed in, maybe, right? A kind of a dummy placeholder. Is there FI in here? Let's go with this. Import from React icons BI, and we'll have this inside our secondary container because it's at the bottom half of the navbar, right? So let's take a look if that is indeed the case. We'll again put this inside our wrapper. So okay, I feel that, yeah, so the individual items are within their like within their tiles, and they have been centered within their tiles, but the tiles itself are not centered, right? So how do we do that? Again, using the same concept. So this time we don't want them to be centered both horizontally and vertically. We just want them to be centered horizontally. So if you remember, the direction this time is column, so align items. So remember the arrow trick I did. So here align items center should do the trick, and yes, it does. How about pushing this blue icon to the bottom, right? So for that, what we'll do is justify content. I think it's spaced between, if I'm not, yep. So it will push the two elements to the edges, right? Now we can basically you know what, let's put some borders for us to visualize things, right? So here icon wrapper border 1 pixel solid black, so this will allow us to see this, right? Let's ditch the red and blue thing. Now the thing is, we haven't made use of this, right? So I think it's a good idea to get rid of them now, but the thing is, we'll circle back to them. So I mean, the thing is, if you end up not using style components and just have some plain divs, so then I guess it's a good idea to remove them and use their actual counterpart, HTML counterpart here. But I have kept them as a foresight because I plan to do something with this eventually. We may not need this, by the way. So anyway, let's see. So first of all, we need some margin between these items. So this is where this will come in. If you remember the owl notation, so margin top, let's give it 4 pixels, right? We may increase it a bit, give it 8 pixels, better, right? The bottom icon is fine, I think. Yeah. So the bottom icon specifically has like it should be circular, because avatar icons usually have a circular kind of a border, or whatever you want to call it. So I'll style it separately and it will basically override it. So border radius 50%. Yeah, and we get this nice circular thing. Yep. We also want border radius on the other items that we have. So the icon wrapper will have a border radius of, let's say, 6 pixels. Sorry, this will be this, because this is CSS and that was an object in React. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to add pseudo selectors and say, hey, when we hover over it, we want to change the background color to white, and we are going to use hex. So ff, right? So that works. The thing is, we can, yeah, I mean, it's fine for now. We also want to have shadows when they are hovered over, or if they are active. So let's do that. A good thing about style components is that you can pass props inside these, but I think we can leave that for later. Okay, so if the particular thing is highlighted, so it will have a different color. If it is not, then we need to show that it's not being used. So let's get rid of the border again. It's not needed, right? And refer to a diagram again. Yeah, that was it. And what, never mind. Also, yeah, when we hover over it, the icon should change. So cursor pointer, right? And let's say that the color of the icon, so see, the font size changes the font size of the icon, so definitely the color will also affect it. So the color by default should be color picker, color hunt. Let's see if we have something nice. Let's go to Tailwind CSS. Here we'll have colors, font color, text color. Yep. So I think there should be a list of colors, man. Where is it? Customizing color. Yeah, here it is. So let's go with this color. If it is inactive, let's see. No, it's too light. How about this? Think it's okay, maybe a little bit darker. Let's see. probably a bit too light, sorry, a bit too dark. So let's stick to this. Now when we hover over it, when we hover over it, we can go with something like this. Let's see, that looks fine. Kind of a very weird color to go with. Let's say we want this to show that, yeah, it's being hovered over. Oh, what we can do is we can get rid of the background color, right? And when the person hovers over it, we can have like a really darker shade of this, so that while we hover, it seems like, okay, I mean, you're hovering, and the active state and hover state should look different, right? Yeah. And when it is active, sorry, that's my bad. And when it is active, what we'll do is go here and we can pass props, right? So I can wrapper, let's call this prop active. I mean, there are other ways of doing this, of course. So let's say this is active, and I can wrapper, so props dot active. If it is true, we do something. If it is not, then we return this. So if it is true, we return this color. Oh, so we'll have to extend it. So styled components props with tail TypeScript. Using style components. Okay, so we'll probably have to extend it. Official way to do this, but you can solve it with a bit of trickery. Okay. All right, let's try this real quick. Active boolean. Now it should be fine. Let's make this optional. Yep. So now it's optional, and if you pass it, it will set this to something, okay, to whatever logic we have written. Also, we want the background color for that. So there's something we can do here. Instead of doing this, we can change the entire CSS. Let's do it like this. If it is active, props dot active, then we have a specific CSS, else we have a different CSS, right? So the part of our first CSS is color, if it is active, right? So if it is active, the color should be this, right? And if it is not, then we have a color something like this. Let's get rid of this for a second. Okay. Also, when it is active, background color, background color should be this. Let's see if it is actually working. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, and think shadow, box shadow. Let's just make use of this again. So yeah, so that's it, right? So this should be it. And for the user, I think we should have another circular thing over here. So there are ways of reusing it, and I'm just doing it ad hoc, so I'm not really thinking of the absolutely correct way of doing it. Probably I'll refactor it again. For now, I'll just go ahead and copy paste this. Color, background color, string, box shadow, color. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, we are kind of done with our changes, right? So we'll just do a git status and see. Yeah, okay, and add them and write a nice commit message. So let's see what. So in case if you're not sure how you should write the commit message, just take a look at the old ones. You can just do git log as well, so that works too. Let's do that. Git log one line. Yeah. So this is the commit message which I had written, and this is basically added by Git. So like GitHub while we merged it. So git commit -m hash implemented basic navbar, right? Issue number. Where is the ticket? Yeah, navigation bar. This is number 7. So we'll go here and change it to 7, right? Let's check if we have it here. Yeah, okay. Now comes the interesting part. Let's say while you have been developing, and this is not specific to you being requested to change your PR. This is something in general that you have to do before pushing your code or creating a PR. What you need to do is make sure that it is in sync with Upstream. So referring back to the diagram, right? So Upstream is this. So Upstream's main branch, the branch in which your code goes into, should be, I mean, your PR should be in sync with that particular branch. So in some cases it can be the master branch, or in some repos it is the dev branch. In some cases it's some other branch. So you'll know, because the branch to which you are creating the PR is the branch you should be concerned about. So in our case it is the master branch, right? So we'll go back to Pipedrunner Labs, Project Fox, and see what all branches do we have. We have master, right? So what we'll do is, first off, we need to make sure that we have upstream alias for that particular repository. So git remote verbose, and we just have origin, and we have ext, which I added, so you can forget this for now. We just have origin, which points to my fork of this. So we need to add the link to upstream, right? Else there's no way for your local code to know that there is something called upstream, or this is the repository that I'm talking about. It has origin because, you know, when you cloned it, it basically assigned the URL from which you have cloned to origin, but for upstream you have to do it manually. So what we are about to do is basically create an alias for the upstream URL, the server that basically is the upstream for you. So git remote add upstream and the URL. Notice that the URL is basically the original repository from which we have forked, right? Now let's check if we have the remote which we need, and yes we do. So first off, what we do is, like, pay attention right now, git fetch upstream master. What this will do is, this will fetch this particular branch master from upstream, and it will create a hidden branch, by the way. So if you do this, you'll notice that you have upstream master here. Now what you want to do is use this information, like what the branch, the fetched branch will be used to tell Git that, hey, this is the branch to which I'm rebasing. So what will happen under the hood is, let's say this is upstream, right? And upstream's master branch, and let's say upstream's master branch has 3 changes since you had pulled the code. So it is not magic, right? You have to sync it for yourself, and this is, let's say, the change that you have done. Now what will happen is, when you fetch this locally, it has created the branch which would look like this. The changes that are here will be here. So what rebase command will do is take your change and append it at the starting, right? So this basically modifies the history for you so that it is mergeable here. So when you actually merge it here, your change will get appended here. So that is exactly what we are about to do. Sorry if the diagrams are not making it clear. Trust me, this is something you'll not be able to learn by just looking at videos and reading books. You'll have to do it. You have to mess up somewhere, learn, and do it again. So we already have this branch. We want to rebase. So git rebase. So notice that I'm currently on the branch that I want to rebase. So it is so what I usually do is, I will be on the branch which I want to rebase, and then I'll use the command like this. So git rebase -i stands for interactive. Git rebase -i upstream master. So rebase this against this. Okay, an interactive mode basically pulls up my editor for whatever process is about to happen. So this basically opens a new screen on your editor of choice. It can be Nano, Vim, it can be NVim, and it will give you something like this. So if you notice, these are the old commit messages, right? So first of all, let's rebase it. So without anything, just in my case, I'll just save and quit WQ, right? It will go ahead and rebase it, and if everything works fine, it will say, hey, successfully rebased. So git log one line, you'll notice that, yeah. And these are the 2 commits that I had originally created. I mean, my junior had already created. I'm just working on top of his work. So what I want to do is, now that the rebase work has happened, so what just happened is, locally, this is the state of my branch. The changes have been there and my change has been appended, right? And now what I want to do is, in my case, I have 3 commits actually, and these have been appended. What I want to do is, I want to take them, squash them into one commit, so that when the maintainer actually is about to merge my code, all he sees is a single commit, right? And thus the history in the git's tree is clean. Every commit points to a specific change that you have done, right? So again, the rebase command is really powerful, and this is the exact command you'll use again for the same thing. So here what you'll do is, rebase will happen from bottom to top. So if you notice the commit message, if you notice the comments below, it is basically giving you a hint. So S is for squash, so I'll change this to S. Again, change this to S, because I want to have one commit, that's it. I cannot have S here because it won't be able to squash this commit. It won't be able to do that because there's no commit after it. So there has to be at least one at the end, so that the other commits can be squashed into one, right? So if you save and quit, it will open another screen and ask you which commits you want to get rid of. So I'll get rid of this. I'll get rid of this, and I'll save and quit. Now if you take a look, you just have one commit, right? But will you be able to push this? No. If you try to do this, it will immediately throw an error. This is because you have changed the commit history, right? So your branch, let's look at it here. Let's say this is origin, right? This is your local machine, and let's say originally this was the state. You tried to create a PR, it got rejected, right? You basically said, okay, yeah, okay. So you made the changes and you have rebased. So currently you are left with 3 commits and you have rebased it. And let's say during rebase, you someone worked on master and has basically added 2 commits. So after rebase, this is the state of your branch, and this does not align with the history of what you have on origin. So Git would not be able to merge it, right? So what you need to do is you need to force push, because for you this is the source of truth and you know this is the correct code. You want to replace whatever's there on origin basically. So you'll do something like this: git push origin feature nav and force. So this will basically force update whatever's there on feature nav in the origin repository, right? So if I go to my if I go to my fork, I should have a branch here, right? And the beauty of all this is that if you have an open PR, something like this, you don't have to do anything. As soon as you force push, it was force pushed, right? React icons, blah blah blah. Yep, okay. So as soon as it is force pushed, the changes will be reflected on your PR, so you don't have to do anything. So what I mean to say is, if I were to boil it down to a few steps, this is what it would look like. Always start with a synced branch, right? So sync up with upstream master, sync up local master with upstream master, make changes in your code, rebase with fetched upstream master, and then push it, right? When you push, this is the first time your branch is being created. Okay, after that, let's say your PR was rejected. If it was accepted, well and good, you don't have to do anything. If PR is rejected, not rejected, it's like PR is requested to be modified. So what you do is start making changes in the same branch. Make changes locally in the same branch. Rebase with basically this step. So rebase, and after rebase, if you already have a branch, okay, squash if needed. If you have multiple commits, squash them. And then if you squash or if you rebase, you'll anyway have to force push most likely if you already have an existing branch. So force push if branch already exists. PR will be updated automatically. You don't have to do anything. PR will be updated. So that's the entire flow of things. Now, I mean, given that this has been done, I would not go ahead and merge it because I want my student to learn. So I'll just give this PR to my student and ask him to take a look and try to replicate this work at his own end, right? And again, notice that PRs should be small, you know, they should not cross 150 or 200. Sometimes even 100 is better. So it's easier to review, it's easier to spot mistakes. For example, there is a PR lying here, which I know, I mean, for some reason it's 18,000 lines of code which comes from package.lock, which is not supposed to happen. Not sure what's up. So anyway, so this is basically the flow of things. Yeah, that's it. If you have any questions regarding this, yeah, I know, I mean, Git is a bit confusing for people at first, but once you start getting your hands dirty, it will be pretty easy. One of the easiest things to use. It's pretty powerful. So thanks.